One of the fraudster sites, Safari Restaurant, claimed that they served the same number of meals in 1 month as the entire St. Paul school district. Governor Walz, you're an educator. Is it plausible for a single restaurant whose owner has already been convicted and is in jail for fraud was actually serving that number of meals?
I think that's why he went to prison, if I'm not mistaken.
But the question would be, why didn't the state of Minnesota? Wasn't that a federal conviction?
Congressman, can you tell me where the evidence is on the $9 billion? Because we're doing what we can. I mean, all the local press and all the folks in Minnesota are saying that's not the case.
I'm not interested in scoring political points. I'm trying to stop the fraud.
Chair recognizes Mr. Palmer from Alabama.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for holding this hearing. I appreciate the witnesses being here. I do want to respond to something that was said earlier by one of my colleagues across the aisle about fraud in Alabama and the different. And he actually raised the question, why isn't the governor of Alabama here? It's very simple. Alabama actually did something about the fraud in SNAP benefits. We acted on that immediately. I would argue that if the state of Minnesota had done that, this hearing wouldn't be necessary. So I want to ask you, Governor Walz, is it true that your Department of Education was sued by Feeding Our Future for racial discrimination and approving food sites?
I don't know exactly what they were sued for, but I know there was a suit.
Didn't the Department of Education have serious concerns about fraud, though, in Feeding Our Future and their sites as far back as 2020?
That's correct, Congressman. They brought it to the attention of the USDA.
And didn't your Department of Education determine there was fraud occurring because of incredibly large, implausible reimbursement requests?
Well, I think at the time during the COVID pandemic, there was how these meals were being delivered and what safeguards, because as you know, the USDA changed the rules on these to make it easier for food to get out.
Yeah, but one of the fraudster sites, Safari Restaurant, claimed that they served the same number of meals in 1 month as the entire St. Paul school district. In their transcribed interview, your Commissioner of Education said that this would be impossible. Governor Walz, you're an educator. Is it plausible for a single restaurant whose owner has already been convicted and is in jail for fraud was actually serving that number of meals?
I think that's why he went to prison, if I'm not mistaken.
But the question would be, why didn't the state of Minnesota? Wasn't that a federal conviction?
It was turned over by the state. It was the state that found it. It was the folks at the Department of Education turned it over with our federal partners. They prosecuted him.
Well, when we had the hearing with the state legislators, I mean, without exception, they all testified that that they were bringing this to the attention of the state, and the state wasn't doing anything about it.
Those legislators run the committee, oversight committee. They never held a single hearing until just very recently, and the chairwoman of that committee is running for governor, so I can't speak to why, but I can tell you that we certainly
but you
tried
can't
to
politicize this, something that was reported years ago. I mean, you could argue that she anticipated that you would resign or retire or however you want to characterize it, but I doubt that was the case. I think I want to be as respectful as I can be, and you know, we've served together. I'm not one of these guys that's trying to score political points. I try to solve problems, but I don't think we can have a transference here of intention for one legislator that you say is running for governor when these issues were raised years ago.
and prosecuted years
Well,
ago.
not all of them, because the fraud continued, and it's run into the billions of dollars now. I mean, the two people that were convicted in federal court, that was $250 million. That we now know that this has gone into the billions, and the question, and I again,
Congressman, can you tell me where the evidence is on the $9 billion? Because we're doing what we can. I mean, all the local press and all the folks in Minnesota are saying that's not the case. We certainly, you know, if every dollar you put out there, if you say it could be fraud, but there's no evidence of that. And the problem with that is, and this story came out last week, people in the U.S. Attorney's Office said when you're putting out these numbers that aren't true, it undermines our ability to tackle the actual fraud.
I didn't say 9 billion. I said that I think it's run into the billions, and that's not just in Minnesota. We've had, during COVID, the fraud was massive throughout the country,
Yes.
particularly in the payroll protection plan and the enhanced unemployment. I think it begs the question, Mr. Chairman, of why we haven't been more aggressive in going after this all over the country. The fraud that was mentioned by my colleague was SNAP benefits, and that's in California, his own state. It's $180 million, but to California's credit, they're doing something about it. So that's the issue here. I'm not interested in scoring political points. I'm trying to stop the fraud.
I appreciate
Trying
that, Congressman.
to get to a place where the public at the state and federal, in terms of state and federal spending, has confidence that we're properly managing the money, and wherever fraud occurs, that we're aggressively pursuing it. I think that's the question that's been raised about how your administration handled this. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
If I just say, that's fair enough, Congressman. I think that spirit is what we're trying to get at. I do think it's nationwide. I think we should share information. I think we're being as aggressive as possible, but fair enough.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to seek recognition for a unanimous consent request. I ask unanimous consent to enter into the record a June 17, 2025 memorandum from the House Judiciary Committee Democrats titled House Judiciary Committee Democrats Memorandum regarding President Trump's pardons cheat victims out of an astounding $1.3 billion in restitution and fines, allowing fraudsters, tax evaders, drug traffickers, and keep ill-gotten gains, which estimates that Trump's reckless pardons robbed victims and let perpetrators walk away without paying $1.3 million in restitution.
Without objection to order. Chair recognizes Ms. Stansberry from New Mexico.
Good morning. Good afternoon, as it is. Mr. Chairman, thank you for having this hearing. I know it's been a long morning for everyone here as witnesses today, and it's been a long several months for the people of Minnesota. We thank you for your service. Now, let me just start by saying at the beginning of my comments here, what I said at the beginning of the last hearing that we had on this exact same subject, which is that we must unequivocally root out waste, fraud, and abuse and prosecute any crimes, wherever they happen, whether those crimes are happening in social service programs at the state level, or whether we have an out-of-control president and administration that is committing crimes, waste, fraud, and abuse inside the White House and within our federal agencies, including deploying thousands of armed agents into our communities, using per diems that are costing millions of taxpayer dollars every day to terrorize our communities, to violate their civil rights, to violate due process rights, and that have resulted in the murder of 2 U.S. citizens. And so my question is, why are we not conducting oversight over that? 2 U.S. citizens that have been murdered by the federal government. Renee Good, a Minneapolis mom, murdered. Alex Preddy, a Minneapolis VA nurse, murdered. Nurul Amin Shal Alam, a partially blind refugee in Buffalo, New York, dead after being left in a parking lot by DHS without even a pair of shoes on. The kidnapping of children like Liam Ramos, and an administration that has launched an unauthorized war in the Middle East with 6 service members dead and over 160 school children and their teachers dead and buried yesterday. Never in my life have I seen a greater disregard for the Constitution, for the rule of law, for the carelessness for human life and basic human dignity and senseless cruelty than I have seen in this administration, whether that is at home or abroad, and they can't answer the most basic questions about why. And meanwhile, people who should be investigating these crimes are partying and drinking on taxpayer dollars. We've got the U.S. DOJ AG refusing to release